You've met someone like this. Maybe he's closer than you think. He's the guy with brilliant ideas, ambitious dreams, and a spark in his eye that makes you believe he's destined for something truly exceptional. He talks about visionary projects, a future filled with greatness, and you almost believe him. Almost, because despite all his talk, nothing ever gets done. He lives in the world of what could be, but never crosses into what is. And when plans fall apart, there's always a convenient excuse. The timing wasn't right, the people weren't right, or the world just doesn't understand his genius yet. Maybe he's that childhood friend who never really moved on, or your younger brother who still treats life like a game. Maybe he's your boyfriend, full of charm and potential, but allergic to responsibility. Or maybe he's even your father, a grown man who somehow never became an adult. No matter who he is, one thing is clear. Somewhere along the way, he stopped growing. Carl Jung had a name for this psychological pattern: pure eternus, the eternal boy. This archetype isn't just a phase. It's a deep, unconscious force. It's the story of the man who remains forever in emotional adolescence, always transitioning, always preparing to live, but never truly beginning. He dazzles with his energy, captivates with his spontaneity, and charms with his creativity. But behind all that shine lies a shadow: the inability to handle the demands of real life. The pure wants life to shape itself around his desires. He expects others to clean up the messes he avoids. He dreams of the perfect partner, the perfect opportunity, the perfect life. And when reality doesn't fit the fantasy, he runs, he walks away, he gives up. Then he starts the cycle all over again in his mind. He's too special for the boring routine of adult life. But the truth is more painful. He's paralyzed by fear, fear of failure, fear of disappointment, fear of growing up. And if you've ever loved someone like this, you know the emotional toll. You pour your energy into them. You offer advice, patience, even unconditional support, but nothing sticks. Deep down, they don't want to change. And somehow, you end up feeling guilty, as if it's your fault for expecting too much, for wanting stability, for refusing to live in their fantasy world of almosts. Let's be honest. This man is stuck, trapped in the illusion of freedom, an illusion that looks liberating on the outside, but is actually a prison of fear and immaturity on the inside. And unless he wakes up, he's destined to grow old without ever fully living. This video isn't meant to attack. It's a mirror. And if you've made it this far, chances are something inside you resonates with this pattern. Maybe in someone close, or maybe even within yourself. The journey of the pure eternus doesn't have to end in regret. But transformation can only begin when we stop lying to ourselves, when we stop confusing fantasy with freedom, when we finally face the uncomfortable truth and choose to grow up. And that brings us to a deeper question. How did we get here? Why does this pattern persist across generations of men? In the next part, we'll explore the psychological roots of the eternal boy, and what it really takes to break free from his grip. Stay with me. He refuses to grow up, but not out of defiance, rather out of fear. As we just explored, the pure eternus lives in fantasy, avoiding the weight of responsibility. Now, let's take a deeper step into his world, shaped by myths and ancient stories that echo this very dilemma. Throughout history, mythology has portrayed this archetype as the boy who resists leaving the paradise of childhood, a symbolic Garden of Eden where everything is safe, simple, and taken care of. He exists in the psychic womb of the mother, protected from the chaos of the real world. He dreams of a glorious future, a destiny so grand it's almost divine. He believes he's been chosen, the special one, the gifted one. But in reality, he never truly steps into the arena of adulthood. He never takes full responsibility for his own life. You've probably seen this play out around you, maybe even in someone close. A man constantly bouncing between jobs, claiming he's just looking for something more meaningful. Someone who dives into new projects with wild excitement, only to abandon them at the first hint of difficulty. A person who falls in love quickly, passionately, and then disappears the moment the relationship requires emotional maturity. He speaks about self-awareness, enlightenment, even spiritual awakening, but forgets to pay the rent or follow through on his promises. But let's be clear, it's not due to a lack of intelligence or talent. In fact, the pure is often brilliant. He's deeply sensitive, incredibly imaginative, and filled with creative potential. He has an almost magical connection to inspiration and beauty. Yet, this gift becomes a trap, because he floats in the clouds of thought and avoids the gravity of real life. He longs to soar, but never builds the wings. He wants the rewards of love without the work of commitment, the recognition of success without the grind of effort. He yearns for all the benefits of adulthood, without ever embracing the cost of growing up. And when the world doesn't hand him what he feels entitled to, he lashes out. He blames the system. He blames his parents. He blames the universe. Everyone, except himself. Carl Jung put it bluntly, the pure eternus is disconnected from time. He lives in a perpetual not yet. He's always waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect idea, the perfect woman, the perfect phase of life to finally begin. But that moment never arrives. So he drifts, waiting, hoping, dreaming. And in the meantime, life passes him by. He doesn't truly live, he merely survives, weighed down by dreams that once gave him hope but now serve as chains. Still, we must be fair. The pure is not entirely negative. Jung believed that within him also lies something beautiful, a force of inner youth, of reinvention, of boundless creativity. He brings vitality, a spark that can reignite a dull world. The problem isn't the boy within the man. The danger begins when that boy takes the steering wheel of life and refuses to let go. So what happens when the pure's shine begins to fade? When the charm wears off and his shadow takes over? That's what we'll uncover next. The dark side of the man-child. How his unchecked immaturity slowly begins to erode relationships, sabotage dreams, and silently destroy everything around him. And now, ask yourself this. Is there someone in your life like this? Or is part of this story hiding within you? Let's keep going. He runs from life, but life never stops chasing. The pure eternus avoids failure, rejection, frustration, not because he's immune to them, but because he fears them so deeply that he builds his entire existence around evasion. He lives as if responsibility is a trap, as if any form of commitment is a kind of death. But what he doesn't see is that every choice he delays, every responsibility he pushes onto someone else, every decision he avoids is a brick in the prison he builds around himself. A prison he calls freedom. You've probably heard him speak with passion, claiming he was born for something greater, and that conventional jobs are for ordinary people. But dig deeper, and you'll find a truth he doesn't admit. He's not rejecting structure because he's above it, but because he's afraid of it. Afraid of repetition, afraid of being measured, afraid of facing the mirror of reality every day. He may say he avoids relationships because they're cages, but in truth, he's terrified of intimacy, of being truly seen, of being vulnerable, of having someone expect consistency from him. He says he hates rules, yet the real issue is that he's never learned how to live within boundaries, how to transform structure into growth instead of oppression. This so-called freedom he promotes to others, the drifting, the endless spontaneity, it's not freedom at all. It's a defense mechanism, a mask, a child's refusal to confront life's weight. He wants to remain untouched by pain, responsibility, or decay, to be forever light, radiant, and untethered, like a balloon floating in the sky. But the world doesn't wait. Time doesn't care. And the longer he floats, the higher the cost becomes. Carl Jung described this as living in a state of psychic suspension. The pure hovers between heaven and earth, never fully descending, never planting roots, never building anything real. But without roots, nothing can grow. Without effort, nothing lasts. And without facing pain, nothing transforms. True freedom isn't the absence of limits. It's the ability to face them with courage, to decide where your energy goes, and to consciously choose what's worthy of your commitment. The pure doesn't do that. He doesn't choose, he flees. And in fleeing, he doesn't just sabotage his own growth, he wounds those who try to love him. Because, at some point, his fantasy starts to crack, and what was once potential begins to rot. This is where we turn toward the dark side of the pure eternus, when promises become burdens, and when inspiration turns into destruction. In the beginning, being around him feels electric. His spontaneity is magnetic, his creativity inspiring, his enthusiasm contagious. He seems to live in a different dimension, free, unpredictable, unchained. But slowly, that light begins to dim. What once felt like openness now feels like emotional absence. What used to be sensitivity starts to look like volatility. His freedom reveals itself not as liberation, but as consistent, subtle escape. That's when the shadow shows itself. The shadow of the man-child is quiet at first. It appears in daily missteps, missed deadlines, forgotten commitments, broken promises, last-minute changes. He becomes financially chaotic, emotionally unreliable. But all of it comes dressed in poetic excuses. I'm not ready. I don't want to force anything. I just need time. But behind those phrases lies something harder to accept. Fear. He is afraid. Afraid of growing up. Afraid of failing. Afraid of being seen as ordinary. And instead of facing that fear, he lets it guide his every move. He sabotages everything that requires effort, structure, or accountability. Not on purpose, but unconsciously, a tragic dance of avoidance, and the consequences. They don't just affect him. They begin to drain the people who believe in him, love him, and try to help him in the next chapter. We'll uncover what happens to those people, the partners, the friends, the family, who get pulled into the orbit of the pure and are slowly consumed by the emotional weight he refuses to carry himself. Let's take a closer look. As we've just seen, the pure eternus doesn't self-destruct in isolation. His immaturity radiates outward, quietly affecting everyone who cares about him. Romantic partners often live in emotional limbo, caught between hope and heartbreak. They love a man who, in his essence, seems soulful, magical even. Yet, in day-to-day life, he vanishes. He says he loves, yet withdraws. He speaks of the future, yet never takes a single solid step toward building one. Each promise feels real, in the moment, but it's always a dream deferred. Family members, watching from the sidelines, experience their own frustration. They see clearly what he cannot, that he is squandering real intelligence, deep talent, and rare opportunities. It's like watching someone with wings refuse to fly, choosing instead to wander in circles, chasing mirages. Friends, eventually, begin to pull away too. They tire of the endless cycle, the grand beginnings that go nowhere, the emotional highs followed by the inevitable crash. They offer advice, support, encouragement, again and again, only to realize they're running on a loop that never breaks. And slowly, exhaustion replaces empathy. Beneath all of this is a suffocating truth. He appears incapable of moving forward. Trapped in a never-ending emotional adolescence, he remains frozen in time. Like every archetype in Jungian psychology, the pure Eternus contains a shadow, a force that operates from the unconscious. And the danger is this: he doesn't realize that he's not only sabotaging his life, but quietly blaming everyone else for the wreckage. He accuses the world of being dull, controlling, and soulless. He dismisses those who have matured as traitors, people who've sold out, who've let life tame them. He believes he's being true to his essence, when in reality, he's become a prisoner of fear. The more he clings to his illusion of freedom, the more isolated he becomes. Carl Jung once wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." This is the hard truth for the pure. His shadow cannot be ignored or romanticized. It must be faced directly. The problem isn't that he carries the child within him. We all do. The real crisis begins when that child becomes a tyrant, running the show, sabotaging any attempt to live a grounded, meaningful adult life. But this sabotage rarely begins in a vacuum. Behind the pure's behaviors, there is almost always an unseen force, a silent but powerful presence that enables his immaturity and locks him in emotional stasis. That presence is what Jung called the archetypal mother. Sometimes she's literal, a real mother, deeply loving but overly protective, who never allowed her son to fall, fail, or take risks. She was always there to catch him, to fix things, to shelter him, and in doing so, she may have unknowingly blocked the development of his autonomy. Other times, this mother figure is symbolic. It could be a romantic partner, a grandmother, even a friend. Any feminine energy that nurtures, supports, and shelters, but also unconsciously demands eternal loyalty in return. In this dynamic, the pure doesn't seek a partner in the true sense. He's not looking for a woman to walk beside him in adult life. He's seeking a replacement, someone who will take over the maternal role. Someone who will understand him without challenging him, accept him without boundaries, support him without expectation. But can a man ever fully grow if he remains tethered to the need for unconditional maternal protection? That is exactly the question we will explore next. How this dependency on the eternal mother archetype fuels the emotional paralysis of the pure Eternus, and why breaking this hidden bond may be the only path toward true maturity and freedom. Let's keep going. Throughout myths and history, the pure Eternus appears as the one who resists leaving the paradise of childhood, a psychological womb where everything is safe, protected, and taken care of. He clings to the illusion of a glorious tomorrow, one that never actually arrives. He sees himself as the eternal son, the chosen one, someone destined for greatness. But in real life, he refuses to take responsibility for his own path. You've likely witnessed this firsthand. Men who jump from job to job, always in search of a deeper purpose. They start projects with passion, but abandon them at the first sign of struggle. They fall madly in love, only to vanish when emotional maturity is needed. They speak of freedom, spirituality, and self-discovery, but they can't even pay a bill on time or follow through on a simple promise. And this isn't due to a lack of intelligence or talent. The pure is often brilliant, sensitive, full of potential. He's deeply connected to imagination and inspiration. But for that very reason, he lives in the clouds, constantly escaping the weight of reality. He wants to fly without building wings. He wants love without commitment, success without effort, and the rewards of adulthood without the burden of responsibility. And when life doesn't hand him what he wants, he blames the world, the system, his parents, life itself, never himself. Jung said, the pure eternus is disconnected from time. He always lives in a not yet, waiting for the right idea, the right person, the perfect moment. He lives in when, never in now. And so, he doesn't truly live, he survives, fueled by dreams that eventually turn into burdens. But there's another side to this archetype. The pure also carries a spark, the creative fire of youth, the ability to dream, the energy to reinvent life. The problem isn't that the boy exists within the man. The problem is when that boy is the one in control. And that's exactly what we need to explore next. When the light of the pure begins to dim and his shadow quietly takes over everything, let's continue. True transformation doesn't come by denying the boy within, but by learning to guide him. Growth isn't about betraying your essence, it's about shaping it into something solid, something real. But to do that, there's a difficult but necessary step. Mourning. You must grieve the idealized boy you once clung to, the imagined life you never truly lived, the dreams that never came to pass. Most of all, you must let go of the symbolic mother, that inner source of comfort and protection you've depended on for far too long. Killing the boy within doesn't mean suppressing your creativity, your lightness, or your capacity to dream. It means no longer using him as a reason to run from responsibility. It means allowing him to exist, but now under the guidance of a conscious and capable man. To mature is to build. It's to develop structure, to establish consistency. It means saying no even when escape is easier. It means committing even when freedom tempts you. It's about showing up with focus even when inspiration is nowhere to be found. It's staying present in a relationship even after the fantasy has faded. It's learning to trade the thrill of the new for the quiet power of staying, of enduring, of finishing. And here lies the deeper truth. When the pure is no longer running the show but is instead integrated into the adult self, he doesn't disappear, he transforms. He becomes the wellspring of imagination, vision, and intuition, but now channeled through a stable, focused mind. That's what real rebirth looks like. The eternal boy no longer hides from reality. He works with it, builds with it, thrives within it. But make no mistake, this transition is hard. It doesn't happen by accident. Many men, at this exact point in the journey, find themselves lost, drained, unsure of what steps to take. They know they've outgrown the fantasy of childhood, but they don't yet know how to take full ownership of their life. And that's exactly why this video doesn't stop here. In the next part, we'll speak directly to those standing at the threshold, men who feel the pull of change, but still don't know how to cross that bridge. The moment of truth has arrived, and the choice is now in your hands. If you've listened this far, it means something in you understands the urgency of these words. Maybe you saw this pattern in someone close. Maybe, more painfully, you recognized it in yourself. There's no shame in that, none at all. We all, in one way or another, struggle with a desire to remain a child in a world that calls for maturity. We've all avoided responsibility, looked for shortcuts, or wished that life would grant us ease before we were ready to earn it. But life doesn't wait. It challenges, it demands, it pushes, and sooner or later, you'll face the same question. Will you stay trapped in a world of empty promises, or take the step toward a life of meaning? Because crossing into adulthood isn't about having it all figured out. It's about deciding, even in fear, that it's time to stop running. And now, let's go deeper into the truth Jung warned us about. The truth of what happens when you don't confront your shadow, and instead meet it again and again in every corner of your life. The battle to grow up doesn't end with good intentions. As we've seen, the pure eterness lives within many, quietly sabotaging growth under the illusion of freedom. This archetype is one of those inner demons. It hides behind beautiful names: freedom, authenticity, misunderstood genius. But in reality, it eats away at your foundation. It prevents anything solid from ever taking root. Left unexamined, it lingers like a shadow, keeping you drifting, endlessly unfinished. But it won't vanish on its own. You must confront it. You must name it. You must look it in the eye, understand its nature, and make a conscious choice to become more than it, to grow beyond its charm and its chains. Maturity is born at the very moment you stop waiting for someone to rescue you. It begins when you decide to rescue yourself, when you stop seeing responsibility as a burden and start to see it as the path to true power. When you realize that freedom isn't about doing whatever you want, it's about building the inner strength to choose what is truly necessary, even when it's hard. Now, I want to hear from you. Which part of this message hit the hardest? Leave a comment below. Be honest. Sometimes, putting your thoughts into words is the first step toward real inner change. And if this video stirred something in you, consider sharing it with someone who may be stuck in the same pattern, someone repeating the same emotional loop without even noticing. But don't stop here. The next video will take this even further. It reveals another hidden piece of this psychological puzzle, one that's just as powerful and just as liberating. It may challenge you. It may hurt a little. But if you're ready, it could also set you free.